Your instructor for today's kickoff session will be Jeslin Varghese. He's going to kick things off here in just a little bit. And then after that, we will have another instructor of ours, Alaa, who is going to be joining as well. And you may see her towards the second half of today's session. So again, just make sure that you are able to hear my audio. Also make sure that you have access to the chat panel. I have been adding some messages in there, so make sure that you do have access to the chat so that you can also enter any questions that you may have. We do want this session to be interactive, so you can enter your questions in the chat, or whenever we come to a stopping point, you can also come off of the microphone if you feel comfortable. So please, make sure that you are able to hear the audio and that you also do have access to the chat. And I see that Jeslin has joined, so we will be getting started here in just a minute. I think you're on mute, Jeslin. There you go. Hey there.
Right, so we have how many? 22? Okay, so we're waiting for a few more folks.
I think we can get started whenever you are ready. I think we had, this is more than half of the folks that registered, so.
Okay, perfect. All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm just curious in which part of the universe you're all joining from. If you can share, that in the chat. New York or Chicago or Texas or India, Dubai, Bombay, Mumbai, Canada. Nice. Nigeria, New York. Wonderful. Well, I am also joining you from New York City, Queens. I was just rushing here from my office to get for the meeting. So let's get started with the first part. I'm going to share my screen real quick. See, Bangalore. Okay, nice. Abu Dhabi. Yeah, actually, we originally started this session for folks in the UAE. So that's why I was curious how many of you are from the UAE. So far, we only have one person from UAE, Abu Dhabi. Let's hopefully in the next few sessions, we'll have more people from UAE. In fact, one of our instructors is from UAE. She'll be joining us later today. Her name is Alaa. Any of you are friends of her, or you can just say note it here. All right. So let me share my screen real quick. Let me know once you can see my screen.
We can see it.
Perfect. All right. So Felicia, did you get a chance to walk over GBRI, or should I just do it? Yeah.
I think you could do a quick overview, yes.
So first of all, welcome to our Well AP exam preparation. My name is Jeslin, and joining me is Felicia from Texas. I'm joining you all from New York City. I am a Well faculty and a USGBC faculty. I am a co-founder of GBRI, co-founded GBRI in 2010. We are an online education platform based in New York City now, with presence around the world. We are a USGBC education partner, an AIA education provider. We are also a partner with the Collaborative of High Performance Schools, CHIPS, the UN SDGs, and the Rhode Island Energy Efficiency Resource Management Council. We also partner with other organizations such as the NASA, the National Association of Students in Architecture in India, and many other small and big offices and universities around the world. We believe a truly sustainable future must also be an equitable one, where every human is treated equally and fairly. Our mission is to make sustainability, health, and wellness available and affordable to everyone around the world. Some of you must be already familiar with us, so that was a quick GBRI intro. All right, let's get started with the meeting. So this is meeting 1 of our Well AP exam preparation. So there are 6 meetings. Previously, we had 5-week program. So we have, based on the feedback we have received from our students, now it's 6-week program. So in 6 weeks, you will be well equipped or armed to take the Well AP exam, and we guarantee that you will pass. So here you can see our instructors. It's myself, Jeslin Varghese, and then there is Carolina. Oh, let's see if I can go back. Carolina, Doug is also a Well faculty, and then Alaa. In fact, all 3, Carolina, Doug, and Alaa, they all were students of mine last year, and they became Well APs and Well faculties, and they're teaching the class now. So we also have a new program starting up where other Well APs are planning to become faculty members also. So if you have a passion for teaching, if you are interested in teaching, take the courses, this course with us, become a Well AP, and then keep in touch. And who knows, you could be teaching one of these courses in the very near future with GBRI. I see Alaa has joined on her phone. All right. So this is the agenda for today. First, we'll go over 10 things you should know about the Well version 2 exam. Then we will talk about the Well AP study group that we have, the WhatsApp group, and we will get started on some of the information on if you have already paid for the exam prep, what are the tools. I will walk you through the website where you can find all the information. And of course, Felicia is also here to help us navigate through your portal. Okay. And then the second half would be getting started with the Well certification process. So that is one of the knowledge domain. And then we'll wrap up with a quick Kahoot, a fun Kahoot, and a homework and what's next. All right, so let's get started. So this one is, 1 second, let me just make sure. Give me a second. Let me just pause this for a second. All right, can you guys see my screen? All good?
Yes, we can still see it.
Okay, so before we get started with 10 things, I wanted to let you know that Well version 2 is something which is good for any type of building types. You know, there are more than with presence in more than 70 countries around the world. Well building standard is about advancing occupant health, and this is something a lot of students has actually asked us. What about does LEED and Well go together? In fact, Well complements LEED, and not just LEED. Well also complements other rating systems around the world. So you can see over here, Well complements LEED, BRIAM, Estidama. So there is a particular credit within the Well rating system which would recognize projects that are pursuing certifications like LEED and other green building rating systems with 5 points. All right. So let's get started with the 10 things that you should know about the Well AP exam preparation. Number 1 is, of course, what is the Well AP credential? So Well AP credential denotes expertise in the Well building standard, and someone who has expertise in the Well building standard, and someone who can help a project navigate through the Well certification process. Okay, how many of you are a LEED Green Associate or LEED AP? So if you are a LEED AP, you would know the LEED AP is a professional who knows LEED rating system inside out, and LEED AP is someone who can help project navigate through the LEED certification process. In other words, a Well AP is like a GPS for the project. You are navigating the project throughout the life cycle to get it certified under the Well rating system. Okay, so that's the fun explanation of who is a Well AP. Now, what is the exam eligibility to become a Well AP? Other than being 18 years or older, there is no other requirement or no other eligibility requirement. Well project experience is recommended. However, it is not a requirement. Okay, so if you're 18 years and plus, you are good to go. Doesn't matter if you are an engineer or an architect or an interior designer. As long as you have interest in the well building standard, you are eligible to take the well AP exam. How much does the well AP exam cost? Well, the answer is it depends. Depends on whether you are a student or you are a professional. For students, it is $99. You have to show proof that you are enrolled in a university or a college. And for professionals, it is $299. Of course, these things change, every now and then there will be discounts that IWBI offer. So please check their website for more information. So this is a slide that the IWBI shared with us a few months ago, which shows, like if you have a group of people who are interested to take the well AP exam, then they have a discount. So let's say if you have, so as you can see from here, if you have 3 plus two or more folks, then it is $299. If it is 10 plus, then it's $213. So you can see a considerable reduction discount in the tuition fees for the well AP exam. And this is something that we don't administer. This is something that the IWBI takes care of, the fees for the well AP exam. Okay. What is the well AP exam format? Well AP exam is computer-based, just like LEAD or any other online exams like GRE, SAT, and everything where you take the exam online. Traditionally, you take the exam through a Prometric center. However, in the last few months, I should say, actually during the pandemic, you have an option where you could take the exam from a remote location or from your home. Okay, so if you're looking into this, please do some research. I have included a link here. The reason I'm emphasizing this is this sounds very easy, but however, we know technology is always a friend of ours until it is not. So especially when you have internet down or something like that, this doesn't land well. So we have a student who took this approach, and she mentioned she really wished she had not taken that approach because she had an iPad and then there was some compatibility issue. Essentially, you have to, that's the reason why there is this link. You can check whether you qualify. You have to make sure there is nothing in your room, all cameras pointing towards you. You cannot get up, or you cannot, there are certain conditions you have to meet for this. Okay. If you go to a Prometric center, of course, you know how that all works. You show up with your ID, and then they give you a locker space. You give all the information, you put all the things that you're carrying with you, like phone, watch, and everything. Then you get in. So that's the place where I took my exam. In fact, I took my exam again last year and have shared my experience in one of the files. And I think we called it the final week must-watch video, where I share some more insights about what to expect. Other than that, it's a 2.5-hour exam. There are 115 multiple choice questions. And if you are familiar with LEAD exam, there are some questions which ask you to select more than one correct answer, or they'll be like select 3, select 2. For LEAD, fortunately, there is only one answer choices. And for our exam prep, you will see that we have to make it, to prepare you, we have questions which will ask you to select more than 1 or 2 answer choices. But for the actual exam, there is only one answer choice. Okay. And you're able to change your answers, skip questions, flag the questions for later review, and they're randomly delivered throughout the exam. Okay, out of the 115 questions, some of them are not scored, but you would not know which ones they are. And you will, and then to pass the exam, it is 170 plus. You will receive the results right away within a few minutes. It's 170 out of 200 is what you need to pass. The score is between 125 and 200. 170 and above will get you accredited under well rating system. We have students who have gotten 190, 196, 192. All right, so what are some reference documents that you can use to prepare for the well AP exam? So on the screen, you are looking at the 3 main documents, or I would call this the core documents. And this comes from the IWBI website itself. It is free to download. The number 1 is the well version 2 standard. And Pay attention here. This is basically Q4 of 2020 addenda. Okay. And for the exam, beta features are not assessed. That's guide number one. Guide number two is the well certification guidebook. This is again Q3, Q4, 2020 addenda. Why I emphasize this? Because since the exam has been written, there have been so many other addendas. Right now, it may be 2021 addenda, 2020 addenda, but for the exam, it is Q4 2020 addenda. That's for the the well version standard 2. And for certification guidebook, it is Q3, Q4 addenda. And the third one is the well portfolio guidebook with the Q4 2020 addenda. If you have already signed up with us, you have access to all the 3 documents. Otherwise, you can always go to IWBI. You can download these documents. When downloading, make sure you download these correct versions. What are well knowledge domains? So now we are going a little bit more deeper into the well AP exam preparation. Knowledge domains reflect the well building standards, concepts, and certification process. There are a total of 11 knowledge domains, just like LEAD, the different call them as categories, but here they are called knowledge domains. Air, water, nourishment, light, movement. So some of these are well concepts, and then you have well certification. That's also a knowledge domain. So how many questions you can expect from each of these knowledge domains? Here you go. On the screen, you're looking at the number of questions you can expect from each knowledge domain. So this will help you prioritize certain concepts like air for sure. There's 11 questions you can expect from air. Well certification, that's one thing which we'll be covering today, which would help you get answered 12 questions. Okay. What are well AP exam question types? What are the questions look like? The exam assesses candidates' abilities at 3 cognitive levels: recall, application, and analysis. So what are each of those? Recall questions these are questions that test a candidate's ability to recall a factual material or foundational element which was presented in the guide, right? In the context of the exam references. Second one is application, where these items provide the candidate with a novel problem or a scenario or something which tests a candidate to see how they can solve using familiar principles or procedures. Third one is analysis. These items assess a candidate's ability to break down a problem into further components, into smaller components to create a solution. So the candidate must not only recognize the different elements of the problem, but also be able to evaluate the relationship or interaction of these elements. So almost like a systems thinking or systems bit approach in the analysis post, a holistic approach, right? First is recall. Basically, you are reading something, you're applying that directly. Second is application. Third is analysis. So those are the 3 main areas where you'll be tested in the questions. Okay. Now, this is an important one. Is there a project-based scenario for the well AP exam? So this is something brand new under well version 2. The new well AP exam will feature a short project scenario. So what does it actually mean? So there will be some exam questions that will require you to refer to the scenario. These questions will provide you with a problem or a scenario to solve using some of the things that you have learned in the guide, right? So let me give you a little bit more of an example. So if you are familiar with GRE or TOEFL or any of those other exams where sometimes you are required to read through a passage, we call that a reading comprehension. There'll be a small passage. Let's say, it's like once upon a time, there used to be a man called Adam. He used to live with this person called Eve, I'm just giving an example, right? So there'll be a question. And then there'll be this paragraph. Based on the paragraph, there'll be 3 or 4 questions. Sometimes there'll be more information than you need. So please don't get hung up on reading it multiple times. Just read it once, go to the question, and then come back to the passage. So there'll be one question, so one passage, and then you'll have 3 or 4 questions that are linked or related to the passage. So that is a project-based scenario question on the well exam. Now that brings us to the next one element. What is embedded content? Some of the content from the well version guidebook will be available for test takers during the exam. It's almost like a tiny element of an open book exam where you are provided with I'd probably say 8 or 10 pages of the well version 2 guide, some important notes. That way you don't have to memorize some of the elements. So I'm going to show you which pieces are there under the embedded content. So one is the concepts and features. You can see on the screen, you can see all the concepts. You don't have to memorize any of the names. You can see, like, for example, under the air concept, you can see all the features: AO1, air quality; AO2, smoke free. So you don't have to memorize any of the things. You just have to understand, okay, this is available for you during the exam. Why it is important? Because knowing this will help you save some of your mental resources. Imagine if you didn't know this, you are like putting all your effort into studying these, like, memorizing these terms. And finally, you recognize when you go to the exam, oh, well, this is available for me to look at, So you use those mental resources efficiently and judiciously, because I know many of you are working and you have work pressure, or if you're in college, school pressure, all that stuff. So that's number one, concepts and features. Number two is a table displaying some thresholds. Not all the thresholds, but for a few, like air. For example, you can see under when you start with the air concept, that is the first number one feature itself. There's so much information about thresholds, like PM matter, particulate matter, or threshold for certain things. All those things you may be overwhelmed, but it's good to know that you don't have to memorize. It is available for you to refer. It's also good to know where it is. Which that way in doing the exam, you're not going through like, where is this, And then finally, the scoring and certification levels. You don't have to memorize how many points you need to get to make, for a project to become platinum or silver or bronze. So those are the three different components of the embedded guide. Also, remember previously I mentioned the project-based scenario. That's also like a embedded guide. So in the exam screen, I think I don't have it on this presentation, but in the final week's presentation, on the screen, you'll have a small little button that says embedded content. When you click on it, that is when you see all these features. And then if it is a project-based scenario, there'll be the same button, which will open up a small little PDF, which will show the project. In a few minutes, maybe I can show that screen. That way you'll be familiar with what the exam screen looks like. Okay. Would you prefer me to show that? If you would like me to show it, let me know in the chat, then I can open that slide real quick. All right. So okay. So perfectly. Okay. I will show that real quick after I run through this. The next next few questions. Next one is well AP credential right for me? So now that we know everything about the well credential, is this credential right for me? So this is a question I would like all of you to ask yourself. I would never want to push a student who may not be ready for this, right? So this is something that you can all ask ourselves. What is a well AP? First of all, you ask that. Would becoming a well AP enhance my professional career, or am I interested to learn more about the well credential? So if you see yourself as a leader in your industry or in your school or in your office who is committed to placing health and wellness at the center of the building design and performance, or center of building operation, then the well AP credential may be right for you. So as you can see from the cloud here, well AP span almost every job function and industry. Health and safety, professors, designers, engineers, CEOs. So just like a lead AP credential, it's a tool. It's a tool where you get to apply the lessons that you learned from it on your projects, small and large, and in your personal lives. So if you answered yes to all these things, then you may be, a good candidate to become or to apply your skills to become a well AP. Now, on top of that, if you're looking from a business standpoint, the global health and wellness industry is a $4.2 trillion market. So if you're looking from, okay, I want to enhance my career, so what are the opportunities out there? So this is the number you should look at. So there's a huge number, especially after the pandemic. Offices, buildings, countries are making sure they are prepared. They're preparing the spaces to meet another health crisis. Okay, so that was the 10 things. Now let me show you the screen that I promised real quick. Give me a second. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to include that in the chat. All right, let me know if you can see the screen. So this I'm sharing a new slide. This should look like a
No, we're seeing the agenda still.
okay. Now?
Now we can see, I guess.
Perfect, perfect. So on the screen now you're looking at, so imagine this is the, the computer screen or the test screen where you're taking it. So the place where I took my exam, it was a smaller screen, but if you have, most likely it'll be a smaller screen. So imagine a screen. On the left-hand side is an outline of all the questions for the exam. So it's 1 to 115 questions, and there'll be an option of a flag if you want to flag it. Okay, that way you can see which one you flag to go back and revisit. And then you can see on the top, you can see the time. So that's like a clock over there running like, to 2 hours, 30 minutes, right? So it's 2:29 and seconds, all that stuff you'll see over there. And then you see on the left-hand side top, you'll see embedded PDF button. So that's the one, if you click on it, a small PDF would open up on your screen. It'll take half the screen where you will see the information. And you can always close it. Okay, so so you know that it is always there when you need it. That is the embedded PDF button. And then project scenario question button is next to it. So if there is a project scenario, then this button will be activated. You click on it, that gets open up. Again, half of the screen will be taken. You can read the comprehension. Okay. Then there's also a calculator button, and then the question, you can see the question and the answer choices. So as previously I mentioned, there is no multiple answer questions, and some questions were worded to confuse, and of course those questions may be not unscored, but you will not know, right? Non-scored ones. And then of course the questions definitely refer SI and IP system, so you don't have to worry about, oh, should I be memorizing or understanding feet or meters? You can do a combination because both would appear on the exam. Okay, and this is one feature I really liked. There's a strikeout feature where you can go and strike out the answer choices. Let's say there are 4 answer choices and you really don't like one, or you feel it is confusing, just strike it out. Okay, all right. So let me now get back to our agenda. Okay, so what does GBRI's exam prep materials consist of? So now that you know, 10 things, how can we help? So on the screen, you're looking at the core elements on the left-hand side. These are the core elements from IWBI. So ours include that. Along with those, our exam prep includes AP live sessions, just like this instructor-led live sessions. It'll be me or Ala or Felicia will be also there, Carolina, Doug, and as I mentioned, more instructors may join in the near future. If you wouldn't want to attend live sessions, we also have on-demand, like self-paced modules. You can watch it on your own. In addition to that, we have 400 plus practice questions. These practice questions represent each of the concepts like air, water, nutrition, and things like that. In addition, we have 3 simulated mock exams. And last but not least, you have an option to join the study group on WhatsApp. This is something, whether you attend the live session or on demand, you can join the study group. This is a group of all the students from past and present and the faculty members. Anytime you post a question within 24 hours, someone from the group would respond. Okay. So I also strongly encourage you to find a study buddy. Like if you have someone who wants to learn with you, helps you motivate within the group, you can ask someone, they could become a buddy too. Here are some additional AP learner resources from IWBI. This, we have downloaded it for, if you are taking our exam prep, we have it under optional, but these are some of the things that you have access to. So what's our exam prep methodology? So you heard me mention that there is project-based questions, right? So our exam prep includes real-world examples. We talk about verification methods. We look at the core guidance. of course, practice questions and well mock exams. So we combine them all into all these features, right? You can see all the well concepts and features. We have combined them all into our exam prep. How do we do it? We use a live project. So on the screen, you're looking at a live project. This is our GBRI Community Center located in, it's yet to be located in New York City. It's still in design. So you can see some of the design elements over here. This was designed by one of our ISP students. She's an architect. Her name is Aparna. Thank you, Aparna, for helping us do it. So you can see some of the core elements. So we use this project throughout our exam prep. In fact, you will see it in action today when I start the first module. Okay. So in 6 weeks, you could then become a well AP. Every week would represent a topic. And here are some feedback from past students. Some of them are USGBC Pro reviewers. And you can also see, and these are the topics under each of these 6 weeks. Okay. After you successfully complete all our exam prep materials, you also have an option to earn our socially shareable wellness ambassador badge. So this is something you can share on LinkedIn. That will show that you have mastered well, and also you are with GBRI's program. Okay. And as I mentioned, this is here are our instructors, Doug, Ala, Carolina, and me. Here are some more testimonials from some of our recent students who passed the exam. She's a scholarship winner, Muskan. You can see all the testimonials are also online, and here are some more testimonials you will see. Okay. So that concludes the first part of today's session. So if you have decided to take the well AP exam, here is a quick step-by-step high-level roadmap, which you can utilize. The second part of today's session will be handled, again, I'll be handling it. We'll familiarize yourself with the well certification process. All right, so ready? So if you have any questions, you can include in the chat. Before I start the next section, I also want to get you familiar with our exam prep materials in terms of where you can find on the website. Okay. So this is basically the content. Let me just show you the screen itself. That way it is easy. Right now, are you seeing some snow on my screen?
We are.
Oh, good. So we are on the right track. Okay, now let me see. Okay. So this is basically, let me actually go. So once you log in, so this is the July session. Once you log in, you can directly go to this particular link over here. I'm going to share that link in the chat. For those of you who haven't enrolled, you can enroll it. Once you enroll, you can see everything over here. See? So basically the first meeting is here. This is the link here, and then the schedule for each of the meetings. It's here, right? And then it also talks about an on-demand version if you're not available for live session. Then you come down, what's included, how it is work, and then all the content. Okay. See the course content. The number one step is joining the WhatsApp group. That is one, right? Again, optional, I would highly recommend. Then we have a 6-week roadmap. Okay, that shows you how to use it to prepare for the exam. Then week 1. So week 1, if you expand, you will see the lesson, which is what we are doing right now, and then a handout, and then the quizzes. Okay, so that's week 1. Then you will see week 2, handout. Okay, I think the quizzes are all combined in one module, maybe. Let's see. This is week 3, handout, everything. And then if you come down, week 6, you see the IWBI core resources that we talked about previously. Then we have all the concept quizzes. So look at here, all the quizzes are in one place. You can see certification quiz, air quiz, water quiz. Okay. Then we have the mock exams. So right now it says 4 quizzes because this one is a short 30 question free mock exam. And then we have mock exam 1, 2, and 3, 115 questions each. Then this is the final week must watch. This is the one I just showed you. So this includes some of the elements on which concept you should give more importance to, because as you start, you will realize this is so much information, you may get overwhelmed. So that particular document helps you go back to like, okay, now that you know most of the concepts in air, let's go back and make sure at least I know top 5 concepts, top 5 features within a concept, So that's what the final watches. And then some additional resources like GBRI scorecard, which is like a lead scorecard, well scorecard, and then the glossary handout, and then some additional roles and responsibilities handout, things like that. So now you know exactly where to find all the information. Okay. If for some reason there are some difficulties, this is where you can communicate in the WhatsApp group. One of us will jump. If not, there's also an option for you to submit a ticket, and one of our team members would respond with the solution. Right. All right. So let's get any questions before I start the first module. Okay, let's see, Deborah. Okay, so Deborah, since you'll be traveling for the last 2 classes, you could, of course, attend the session on demand. There'll be recording of every single session that we post, or you can also watch the pre-recorded one, session 2. Okay, so the last 2 sessions, within 24 hours, we post the video from the live session. Like, for example, today's session, you will have access to. But if you want to watch the session ahead of time, you also have that option. Like, I think right now, if you go to, let me ask Felicia. So Felicia, for July 2023 session, if someone who's registered, if they want to just get ahead of the class, can they go and watch meeting 2?
If you click on the week 1 right there, it should, you click on the week 1.
Yeah, the week 1, I definitely saw the recording, right? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, so the recording from the previous month should be listed there.
Okay, and then the recording from the live session is also available for them as.
And then so once the live recording for our actual session becomes available, then that will replace this session here.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much, pleasure. Thank you. That makes sense. All right. So I hope, Deborah, that answers your question. So either you can watch it before the session or after or both. All right. Yes, recordings and handouts will be available. I mean, right now itself you have available everything. So if you have already paid for the session, Deborah, if you log in, every session is available. Okay. If you have the time, you can knock it on all 6 sessions this weekend itself. Okay. Robin, okay, this is in the 6-week program. How many hours per week do we need to designate to study? How many hours per week should we study for the exam prep? So this is something very relative, but I can give you a window, right? So each of our sessions are approximately 2 hours long. Okay, so that is 2 hours, right? So multiply it by 2. So I would probably say at least 4 hours a week if you designate. So that is 2 hours of watching, and then if you want to quickly revise. And one of the best resource that we have is the highlighted guide. So if you are familiar with the building standard, it's like 500 pages of 500 pages. So what we have done is we have highlighted certain texts. That way you don't have to read the whole thing, at least revising it. So that is one of the feedback that we have received from all the students. That is the best thing that we have done. A, and B is the project scenario that we talk about in every meeting. Okay. So to answer your question, 4 hours, you can assume now 4 hours per week. And of course, if you have, I personally like to do every single day a little bit. That way my memory is constantly refreshed. Imagine, I study for 5 hours this week, and next 3 weeks, I don't do anything. And then 3rd week I come and open the book. I'm like, I don't even remember anything. Right. So, that is the reason the roadmap definitely helps, and the study group also helps. Okay. All right. All right, Robin. So let me start the first module, which is well certification. All right. So welcome to the first module, which is well certification. Here you can see the agenda. We will go through the well building standard. We'll understand each step within the well certification process. We'll understand the roles and responsibilities. We'll also understand what are preconditions and optimizations and look at the documentation requirements. Okay. So here are the 12 modules under this the exam prep that we have: air, water, nourishment, innovation, well certification. So today for this particular one is well certification. Let's get started. Listed here are specific topics under well certification. So this is something I would love for you to come back. Okay, after you take one module, come back to this and then see, okay, let me see, do I understand the registration process now? Do I understand the number 2 now? So the top part is the knowledge, the bottom part is skills. So you need both for your exam prep, right? So our goal is to cover everything. So today you will become familiar with 1 to 6. Number 7 and number 8 is something that we will be covering throughout our exam prep, because these are synergies between concepts. So you cannot just learn it, on day 1. It is something you will learn throughout the session, like what are some synergies between air and water or air and light. Those are the things you will learn as you progress through our exam prep. As I mentioned before, we will explore some of the well features through a live project. So let's explore well through the lens of a live project. Our project is under early design stages and it is located in New York City. This would be home to GBRI Community Center, Community Learning Center, where learning never ends just with learning, but meaningful actions. The front elevation you see here and several renderings like floor plans, everything were developed by architect Aparna, who is GBRI's Sustainability Fellow. Thank you, Aparna, one more time. So as you can see here, it's a circular floor plan with an open sky courtyard, or we could cover it later with a dome or with some, we can make it even solar panels or things like that. You can see various space functions the building will serve, learning elements like that, office. Here are a few more renderings. This will allow you to see various elements in the space. So we will use this project throughout the exam prep. So whenever we say our project, this is the project we'll be referring to. And I encourage you all to visualize it whenever we mention it. So this will help you understand the concepts, memorize them. Alternatively, you can also take your own project in your head. You can think of your own project and then imagine you are the well consultant, well AP consultant on the project. So whenever we are asking you to imagine, okay, I am the consultant of this project. What can I do? I just learned about air. Now, how can I apply that on my project? And that will help you a lot, not only in memorizing the concepts, but also applying them in the exam. So that's also one more feedback we have gotten from our students, is that the practical application, reminding them of how the interconnections work. Okay. All right. So let's get back to the slide here. So what is well certification? If well equates to human health and well-being, what is well certification? Now that we are familiar with our project, let's look at well certification through the eyes of our project. Well certification is a roadmap. It's a recipe for organizations or project teams looking to incorporate the best of the well-building standard into the project. In other words, it's a roadmap to advance human health and well-being. So if you were to make a formula for well certification, that look like something you see on the screen: building project or projects, plus the well guidelines, plus implementing them, and then you document it. Once you document it, you have a third-party review, which is GBCI documentation review. After that, you have a third-party performance verification, which is also done by GBCI or approved by GBCI. That equates to well certification. If you're looking for all the elements on one slide, here you go. It is a high-level roadmap to well certification. Throughout the session, we will introduce you to several of these, which you can utilize to take additional notes. So when you have in the handout, you can print this if you want to, and then make specific notes. Okay. All right. So now that you have a high-level view of well certification, Why go for certification or why go for well occupant wellness? So this is something clients may ask you. Like when you're talking to a client, they'll say, all right, I understand, why. We shape our buildings and afterwards our buildings shape us. I love this quote from Winston Churchill. Considering we spend 90% of our time indoors, buildings are an inseparable part of our lives. We sleep, we rest, we bond with our family in our homes, we work, we study in school buildings. Everything happens in the built environment. And hence we cannot ignore them. And to a very good degree, they shape who we are. You have heard companies proclaim their staff is their biggest asset. Well, I hope that is true for them. What I know for sure it is for most businesses is what you see here. This is from a study completed by the World Green Building Council, and it shows staff costs and salaries and benefits account for 90% of most business operational expense. That's huge. So not only should people be seen as key factor that makes a business great, but they're also true assets to the company. If a significant amount of this cash is directed to these people. So if a person is sick, then not only it will have affect your triple bottom line of a company, but also it affects the overall picture of the project. Now we have been talking about well building standard for some time. You may already have read parts of it. For those who have not, let's see what a well guide contains. As I mentioned, it's a roadmap, right? It's a collection of research-based guidelines and strategies spread across well concepts or well features, which is a combination of preconditions and features. So note the term preconditions and optimizations. Preconditions are like prerequisites under LEED. They are mandatory. Optimizations are optional, like credits under LEED. These features are spread across 10 concepts under the well version 2. Under the previous version, there were 7 concepts, so you can see them here. Please note that for the exam, you don't have to memorize either of these. I'm just showing these for your reference. Throughout today's session, whenever I am sharing a number, I will let you know. You don't have to memorize. That way you're like, oh my gosh, okay, good to know. That way you can save those mental resources. Okay, so this is all the concepts: air, water, nourishment, light, movement, thermal comfort, sound, materials, mind, and community. There's a quick story I created. If you want to memorize, it is a video that I created, but we don't have to. Let's see how much time we have. 11:51. So we could watch it, but again, this is optional just to make it relate to LEED. During the pandemic. Can you hear the sound if I or no?
Can you try again? I didn't hear anything.
Okay, let's see.
During the pandemic, one of the things I used to do was wake up early in the morning. When I say early in the morning, it was really early, like before crack of the dawn, like 4 a.m. Guess who my jogging buddy was one day? President Barack Obama. Can you believe that? I'm sure you don't believe me yet. Well, we started jogging, and halfway through the jog, I had to suddenly stop to catch my breath or air. Obama seemed a little annoyed by it, and he went, "Bro, take your mask off and breathe some fresh air." He offered me a bottle of water, which he promised he didn't drink from yet. I was not so convinced and didn't want to take a chance, considering we were still in the middle of the pandemic. So we stopped by this food truck and got a bottle of water and a breakfast taco to nourish ourselves. By the time we finished our tacos, the sun rose and there was light. And this is when Obama goes, "Man, you lazy bugger, let's stop talking and let's keep moving." So we got back into movement and continued jogging. After a few minutes, I started sweating so much that I took my shirt off. Thermal comfort, nothing compares to how it felt. Just as we were about to cross the Queensboro Bridge, it got so loud with some trucks on the road and trains. We both complained about the sound pollution and all the construction happening around and all the material accumulation. It was a rough morning, so I asked him to take another route so that we could both take our mind off everything else. And also I could show him GBRI's new site for the community center. We sat at the community center, closed our eyes and meditated for a few minutes, resting our mind, body, and soul. Not only we felt connected to ourselves, but to people around us, forming a community. The end. Now, if you ever get to meet President Obama, please don't tell him this story because I don't think he will remember much of it.
All right, thank you for watching that story with me. That's something if you are interested to learn about, the memorize all the concept. We're not required to. So this is one strategy that you can all use by thinking about scenarios or making up your own stories. Now you may wonder, well, the Obama story actually happened or not. Well, you can keep guessing, but you can imagine these things, to make a concept stronger in your head and memorize different terms. So before I go in details, I thought it may be helpful for folks who are new to well. Each of the 10 concepts you saw earlier consist of features with distinct health intents. Features are either preconditions or optimizations. Preconditions are mandatory for certification. So this is similar to prerequisites under the lead rating system, which are mandatory for all project types. Optimizations, on the other hand, are flexible. They are like lead credits that are worth points. Optimizations are optional pathways for projects to meet certification requirements in well. Project teams may select which optimization they want to pursue for each feature. So here you can see the features, preconditions. There are 24 preconditions, optimized, there are 100 optimizations. You don't have to memorize the numbers, just understand. One is universal. Every project has to comply with the preconditions. Optimization, it's flexible. Even though you don't have to memorize the precondition, but understand which ones are the preconditions. So if you remember early on, I mentioned in the embedded guide, you can see all the features, right? So that way you don't have to memorize any feature, but it doesn't distinguish between which one is precondition, which one is optimization. So at least from the sound of it, you should be able to tell, okay, that's a precondition. Okay, got it? So let's look at an example. Smoke-free environment. So this is a precondition. This, in order to deter smoking, projects have to minimize occupant exposure to secondhand smoke and reduce smoke pollution. This well feature requires projects to ban indoor smoking and ban or restrict outdoor smoking within its boundaries. As you can see on the slide here, there's also this UN SDG goal. So this is something that we have tried to put on some slides, like you will see this when you take the exam, exam prep, but this is not required for exam, okay? It just shows how it is linked to a UN SDG or the UN Sustainable Development Goal, since we are a UN SDG partner. Any project that wishes to get certified under well must meet all the requirements of the preconditions. So all the preconditions plus enough optimizations to get to a levels. For example, bronze, 40 points, 50 points is silver, 60 is gold, platinum is 80. You don't have to memorize this because this is also part of the embedded guide. But understand all the preconditions and then enough points to earn bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. All right. So how do we get our project well certified? So for anything that we do in our life, what is the first step? The first step is registration. For example, many of you are interested in well AP exam prep, so you registered with us to study for exam. Similarly, for a project, first step is registration. Where does it happen? It happens at projects.wellcertified.com. So that's a well digital platform. That's the official online registration application platform. It's also a project management platform where all the projects manage documents, team members, everything happens on there. It's almost like the lead online if you're familiar with the lead rating system. Here is a high-level look at the well certification stages. You can see it starts with registration. Then there is something called pre-certification. We'll talk about pre-certification in detail, but understand that this is something that is an optional pathway for projects. It allows all the project types, all project owners to demonstrate a commitment to health and wellness in the built environment. So this also allows them to market a proposed wellness feature or within the built environment to potential tenants or stakeholders. You might have seen this where buildings would say pre-certified well building. In the past, it used to be pre-certified well gold, platinum, whatnot, but now there is no distinction. It basically says pre-certified well building. which means a project, is planning or intending to get well certified. It remains active until either well certification or the registration expires. So that could be a potential exam question. Okay. Now let's look at registration closely. Registration requires submitting basic information, like you register yourself to a place, they ask your name, your height, your weight. Similarly, for a project, there are some basic information. Let's look into this. So from this point on, you will notice some screenshots, and those are screenshots from the Well digital platform. So when I registered our project, I took screenshots. That way you can understand how it looks like. So this is again helps you to, instead of just memorizing, okay, first step is registration, you are now looking through the eyes of a project. Okay, this is what happens when you register a project. So number one thing to understand in terms of exam is also about the well project boundary. So this is something that it has to be consistent. It may not be, unnecessarily exclude portions of the building space to give unnecessary advantage. So that is something you should understand for your exam. At registration, projects must define the boundaries of the project scope. The project must accurately communicate the scope of the certifying project in all promotional and descriptive materials. That is also one more thing you should understand. The project should be defined by a clear boundary such that the project is physically distinct from non-certified areas. Okay. A single project may also include multiple distinct structures that are not physically connected, provided the following conditions are met. For example, all the buildings must be under the same ownership. The buildings must be located adjacent to each other. That is, there is no land unaffiliated with the project intervening. And the project boundary must encompass all outdoor space affiliated with the project. The building must be related to each other, and the project name must accurately describe the group of buildings. So this mostly applies to when you are, in a campus setting or in an office setting where you're like, okay, 3 buildings together, main building, and then you have a cafeteria building between or something like that. But they're all related. Okay, that is the condition. Then you can certify under one single project if those conditions are met. Documentation, performance verification, it all happens at the same time. And all the buildings will get this single level of certification. It's not like building 1 will get platinum, building 2 will get gold. No, if you are going after one project, combining them as one project, it'll be one certification. Okay. So what well version do we register our project? So when I registered our project earlier in April 2022, I registered under well version 2. That was a default. As a default, the quarterly addenda version of the well that was current upon enrollment of the project will be applicable for the project, unless it chooses to update to a newer addenda. So this is something you should be aware for the exam. What well version would a project register? Okay, so let me go back to slide again. It's the quarterly addenda version of the well that was current upon enrollment. Okay, the project may choose to update to a newer version. As I mentioned previously, this is the first slide I show. Well version 2 is designed to work with all types of building projects, from commercial buildings to warehouses, stadiums, hostels, hotels, hospitals, everything. With our experience with the pandemic, we know no building was spared, and it makes the most sense to guard all buildings where we spend a good portion of our life. So this is this option which was given to me when I registered our project as part of the well version registration. You can designate a space type. Space types refer to spaces within a project and not the project as a whole. For example, a school might be made of space types like classrooms, offices, commercial kitchen, and dining areas. So identifying space types within the project can help clarify how well features apply to that particular project. You can see the options here. So for our project, I went with office, education, and library. That were the space types I selected. Once I selected education, office, and library, the application prompted me to select a primary space type. So what are primary space types? This is actually, so I went with education, right? So there are primary and secondary space types. Primary spaces are those that can apply to an entire project, whereas secondary spaces are always affiliated with the primary space. A project, therefore, could be comprised of one space, meaning it applies one standard, or it could be comprised of multiple spaces. So an example earlier I mentioned, a school, primary space, The cafeteria would consist of primary space education, secondary space would be commercial kitchen. In addition to classification of space types within a project, well version 2 also distinguishes spaces based on their level of occupancy. So for your exam, I would like you to understand what do you mean by regularly occupied space. Regularly occupied space are areas within a project where a particular individual normally spends at least 1 continuous hour or cumulatively at least 2 hours per day, such as offices, conference rooms, bedrooms, and classrooms. If it is, apartment buildings, then you take bedrooms, and classrooms for school facilities. Occupiable spaces are spaces that can be occupied for any task or any activity, including transition spaces or balconies, but exclude spaces that are rarely assessed, such as storage space or equipment rooms like mechanical rooms. You'll hear these terms again during the project, during the exam prep, but I just wanted to understand those things. Determining or anticipating who will be present in each phase of a project will help a project paint a complete picture of where and for whom the requirements of well features apply. So that is the reason why we want to define these things. Especially when your well certification revolves around the wellness of the occupants, you want to know where these occupants are, right? And where and when they're going to be spending in the building. From exam tip, for features that require size or quantity calculations to be performed based on a class of occupants or in any feature, use the maximum number of occupants of that class to be expected at any given time. So use the maximum number, that's a design case for your calculations. Okay. One of the last steps of registering the project is providing an estimated documentation date. As you can see here, this is just an estimate and it can be updated at any point. So I entered a future date and registration is complete, almost complete. What else? Certification cycle is something which dictates how often a project chooses to get certified. So in the past, if you remember, under LEED version 1 or something, once you're certified for life. But then you all know, just like humans, buildings also age, right? With aging, not all buildings perform the way it was designed to. And that's the reason they have these different certification stages. One is a single cycle certification, which means projects may register for a single certification under both well versions. Under version 2, project may register under either single cycle certification or a 3 or 5 year subscription. So you can almost do a subscription basis. Every 3 or 5 year, you recertify. We'll talk about certification also towards the end. Once again, this is the high level certification stage. We looked at registration, we looked at pre-certification. Let's now understand what is performance verification. So this step occurs when all the documentation is complete for a project. So we're almost getting close with the registration process. Next step is the program asked me, am I going to certify with well full certification or well core certification? First option is well full scope of certification across design, construction, operation. Second option is core certification. It's like core and shell when project owner occupies a small portion of the project area and the rest is actually leased or rented. So that's the second program. Okay. So in our case, I went with the full option. Okay. Well, full certification, but for core and shell, let's understand what is meant for the exam. Core and shell is appropriate for projects in which up to 25% of the project is fully controlled by the individual project owner, the building owner. That is 75% or more is occupied by tenants. Well certification is available for core and shell projects seeking to implement fundamental features to the entire base building for the benefit of future tenants. So understand that. The core and shell typology addresses for building structure, window locations, glazing, HVAC, building proportions, the shell, basically the shell, right? The heating, cooling, and ventilation system, and the water quality. So I went with the full certification because we will be occupying the whole thing. Last, it also asked me what kind of ownership. Is it going to be shared ownership or am I going to be, leasing it? So I went with this is a space I will be owning. So you can see two options. I said I will be owning it. That's it. Now that the project is registered, you have access to a scorecard. So this is a scorecard that you will get in your exam prep. This is one of the handouts you will get. You can see what a scorecard looks like. Everyone who registers who haven't paid yet would have access to the scorecard. Okay, once you start registration process, you'll have access to the scorecard. Okay, enrolling the project is when you start paying. So here is the pay fees, the enrollment fees, program fees, and everything. For your exam, you don't have to memorize any of these fees. Just understand there is fees, and the fees is based on square footage. Okay, this enrollment fee, which is based on the flat fee, but the program fees is actually based on square footage. Just understand that. That's good for your exam. There are also some optional services like pre-certification. I previously mentioned it's an optional service that you can utilize. Another one is well health safety rating. So this is different than well certification. You should understand that. You might have seen this. This is something that IWBI came up during the pandemic. Many spaces get well health and safety rating. If you look at the well building standard as a big picture, health and safety is a small component and well certification is the bigger component. So this is an optional milestone. If a project wishes to accomplish this, then they can do it for an additional fees. Okay, so you don't have to memorize the fees or anything. Just understand they are different. Okay, so this is the scorecard, and the scorecard basically actually has all the features. It shows the weight. You can see over here it says P, which is precondition or an optimization, and then you says whether you are pursuing it, yes, maybe, or no. It is like a decision-making tool for the project team to see, okay, are we doing the A2? Not sure. Okay, let's put it maybe now. It also helps you, okay, how many points you're pursuing, whether we are pursuing silver or gold or whatnot. Now that we understand all these elements, let's talk about roles and responsibilities, starting with the project owner. In this case, we are the owner of the project, right? So it is an individual or entity that holds all legal rights to possess and control project relevant location and to authorize decisions pertaining to the location and the project. That's number one. Second is project administrator. This person acts like a project manager and oversees the well process. So anyone who registers the project, they automatically become the project administrator. This person doesn't have to be the well AP. They can always transfer it to somebody else. This person becomes the main contact for the project between IWBI and GBCI. And this person also receives the report. So think of that person as a project manager for now, but this person can also be, you can transfer the right to somebody else. This person can be a well AP, but need not be a well AP. This person could be, ideally, this person is close to the owner. The owner has appointed them as a project manager or a representative. Third is a well reviewer. Well reviewer is GBCI. So after documentation is complete, GBCI, Green Business Certification Institute, not GBRI, GBCI will assign a GBCI well reviewer to the project. The well reviewer is a third-party individual responsible for reviewing all the documentation that you submitted. After it is reviewed, the well reviewer would then give you a green signal to get the next phase, which is well performance testing. This is also done by GBCI or an agency approved by GBCI. Okay, so there is well reviewing, which is reviewing all the documentation, and then there is well performance reviewing, which is on-site performance testing. We'll look into that in detail, but understand there are two different elements. Okay, and then there's well AP. So as I previously mentioned, well AP is like a GPS, right? So well AP helps the project navigate through the certification process because he or she would know well building standard inside out. And there is well coaching contacts. Who are well coaching contacts? Upon official registration to the well, all projects are assigned to a well coaching contact from the IWBI to help guide projects if they may have any questions, share helpful resources and tools, provide feedback and direction over the course of certification process. So think of them actually as someone who is like a coach, like someone who is they are there to guide you if you need them. And of course, owner's representative, if you want to add more representative for the owner, and then rest of project team, which includes engineers, architects, facility managers, everyone else. They're also equally important, but we're just putting them in the rest of the bucket for now. Okay. Here are some more screenshots from the Well digital platform. As you can see, it talks about the owner, who is the owner. It also asks you if you're planning to undergo construction or renovation, like, if it's an existing building or new building. See over here, it is asking me which other certification are we pursuing. This is where I could include BRIAM, LEED, Green Star, LEED, Living Building Challenge, or other. Okay, so this is where WELL is trying to recognize the projects that are pursuing other rating systems. That's it. On the screen, you can see, me, who I started the registration process. So I became the administrator automatically. However, I can always add team members and make them, team manager or whatnot. So you can see over here, I can add team members from the platform and assign them a new role. Okay. I think now we are ready to look at the enhanced roadmap with more steps. Yeah. So before I continue, any questions? Let's see the time. So 12:14. So my goal is to wrap this up before 1 o'clock and play the Kahoot. I think we are on time. Let's see, we have, before I continue, any questions? How are we doing so far? Am I talking too fast? Because as you can see clearly, I have an accent, and sometimes when I get super excited, I speak faster, and there could be issue understanding. If you want me to slow it down, then I'll be more than happy to slow it down. Oh, so I see a comment there. Rosie actually met Obama. Nice. Just like me. All right, so no questions I see. Okay, so let's continue. So now that we understand that there are certain documentation requirements, let's understand them now. Now, if you wonder, why should we understand all this in the, ahead of time, right? This is one of those things where you seriously don't want to be in a position where you're like, oh, I wish I knew this. So it's good to know what is required before you start the project. Okay. So WELL requires projects to provide documentation as evidence that certain WELL features are met. Now, how do you show the evidence? It's all submitted to the WELL digital platform that we talked about earlier. This is where you register the project, right? Here are the 3 different document types. Number 1 is annotated documents. What are annotated documents? These refer to existing project documents that are marked up to provide additional information. So imagine a project drawing, you're highlighting it saying, look here, that way the reviewer is not going through 500 pages of, drawings. You just highlight the important ones. So this includes design documents, construction documents, as-built drawings with pertinent information marked or highlight. This also includes operation schedules for buildings, time log templates, policy documents, and professional narratives. What are policy documents? Especially, let's say, if you're a building where you are required to develop a policy for employee insurance, employee wellness, employee sickness, those are all policy documents. And most of the time, those are heavy documents. The legal team would throw everything in there, one catch for all, right? So this is where you have to highlight important sections that are pertinent to the WELL feature. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is letters of assurance. What are LOAs? These are separate letters that are submitted by appropriate professionals overseeing. Oh, I think I'm not sharing the screen. Okay, 1 second. Can you see it now? It should show number 1, 2, and 3. All right. Thank you, Sudarshan. I'm sorry if you are able to see it now. Perfect. All right. So number 1 is annotated. Number 2 is letters of assurance. These are letters written by professionals. So remember, when I show the team, I had this one category called rest of the team. Those are all the important folks aside. Engineers, architects, mechanical engineer, civil engineer. They are the ones who write the letters. They are using their credential, their licenses to say, I assure that this has met all these things. Okay, this is a letter written by them. That's LOA. Okay, this helps to implement certain features, and you'll see this throughout the exam prep. Certain features require LOAs, certain features require annotated documents. Now, if you're exam prep, you are just required to understand what are these documents, but for every single feature, you are not required to memorize them. However, you will see this throughout the exam prep because we didn't want to skip it because we're talking about a particular feature We also want to tell you, okay, this person is responsible for it, or this is what is happening. For exam prep, it is not required. I just wanted to let you know ahead of time. That way, you know you are not required to memorize them. Okay. And last is general documents. These are documents not linked to verification of a specific feature, but are instead required as a general document of the project. This could be, these are not annotated. There could be like project details, project information, which are just good to know information about the project. All right. So now that we understand the documentation, here are document stages. So number one is intent stage. Number two is implementation stage. So if you remember under pre-certification, I mentioned it is optional. So that is where the intent comes. So if you right now put your hat, you can use your hat to imagine you are the owner of a building. Okay. Now you're wondering, okay, this project will be completed in 2026, but I need tenants for my building. So that is when you think about certification. You think like, okay, if I get pre-certified, then I could attract potential tenants, letting them know that this building, I am intending to actually make this building well certified. So those documents that I submit in support of that could be called as intent stage, because your hope is that you're intending to do those things. Implementation stage is like you're done. Your design is done, project is done. Those are the documents. Let's look at it more closely. Here you can see all the documentation stages. There's a table over here that outlines the major differences. So you can see over here LOAs, the letter of assurances, who is giving it owner. This could be intent stage or it could be implementation stage, right? So any of the LOAs could be either, because you can imagine you're owner, you're like, yeah, I intend to do this. The same document could become an implementation stage later on. Okay. Annotated documents. An example for intent stage would be proposed conditions. Look at this, proposed conditions. Those are basically you're proposing them, and that is for proposing to IWBI. Okay, I am planning to get this building pre-certified. Final documents, that becomes, as built, design documents, 100% CDs, things like that. So this stage, this is an important document. I would love for you to review it again to understand what are the differences. And then finally, performance. So under performance, narrative is the only thing you need for intent stage. Okay, but for implementation stage, there is none, but it's a report given by the testing agent. So there is no intent stage performance testing happening at for pre-certification. Okay, just a narrative is all you need for that. Okay. All right. So now that we know the documentation requirements, let's get started with the next steps. Pre-certification. We talked about pre-certification briefly, but as I mentioned previously, this allows project owners to demonstrate a commitment to health and wellness in a built environment. It also helps them to market the proposed wellness feature of a project to potential tenants looking to occupy the building, also to stakeholders. Okay, the pre-certification again remains active until either the project achieves certification or its registration expires. Of course, there is additional fees. You don't have to worry about how much it is, but definitely there is fees. Understand there is fees. So here are the documentation requirements for pre-certification. Okay, so you can see there is intent stage documents, there is implementation stage documents, and there is a combination. That's for the pre-certification. Okay, either they could use intent stage if you're early on, or they could use, if they're halfway through the project, if they have implementation stage, you could use that, or they can use a combination. Once they submit the documentation, the reviewer takes approximately 25 days. Then you're pre-certified. Can you get your project pre-certified gold, silver, or platinum? Let me see if you can answer it. Help me answer it. So my question is, can you get your project well pre-certified gold or platinum or silver, or it's going to be just well pre-certified? You can enter your answer choice in the chat. Is it just pre-certification, or is it going to be pre-certified gold, pre-certified silver, or platinum? Perfect. Thank you, GB. It is only pre-certified. Doesn't say anything else. Thank you. I see. Very good. I see that you all have been paying attention. Proud of you. Wonderful. So only pre-certification, there is no levels. Okay. Even if you submit documentation for 70 points, doesn't matter. So you can just need to do enough. Perfect. All right. All right. Next is the real work. Until now, we were just doing registration and everything. Now, next is the heavyweight, where you will start to design, and implement it. Right. That is where everything happens. So if it is a pre-design stage, this is a perfect time for you to gather all the team members and host a design shred or a sustainability shred. Integrative process, which is incorporated throughout the project life cycle, where you make sure that every team member is familiar with well, and if you're pursuing lead, see how they intersect. So this is where the role of a well AP becomes invaluable. Someone who knows both systems. If you're also a lead AP, it's extremely important. Then you can know both and you see synergies. That way, working on one may help you achieve another one. Okay, there's no double work. You can utilize one feature for other. Just like the lead rating system, the well building standard allows innovative alternative solutions. So these two elements memorized for your exam. One is AAP, alternate adherence path. What is this? These are used when projects wish to deploy alternative strategies. As you would agree, no two projects are same. There'll be always some project will be like a different scenario. In that way, they feel like if they can propose an alternative strategy and still meet the intent of an existing feature. So intent is something which you will learn when we start with AIR feature. Every feature within the well certificate guideline has an intent. If you're familiar with lead, every credit has an intent. What is the intent behind a credit, right? So understand the intent. That is the most important element for the well exam prep. If you understand the intent, you can answer pretty much all the questions because you know, okay, this is the intent of the credit. Can we achieve the credit or not? So if you are able to propose alternative ideas to meet the intent, those are called apps. You submit them for approval, and then if it's approved, then you could get to use them for your project. Innovation features, these are when a project is to receive credit for features or that are above and beyond the well standard. So let's say you are coming with this innovative idea. You feel like, oh, I wish this was part of well, but it is definitely going to help the health and wellness of my occupants. Then you submit them as innovative feature in a different category, innovation category, and you get credits for that. So just understand these two elements for your exam. Next is equivalencies. So depending on the location of the project, different laws, different regulation codes, they all have different requirements, right? So IWBI accept proposals for equivalencies which may be used in place of the reference in well. Within the well building standard, you will see sometimes certain reference standards like ASHRAE or this. So let's say if there is something equivalent in your area, you're working in a particular country where you don't actually have this international standard. However, you have this local standard. If it actually works, then you can use it as an equivalency for the credit. So for exam, understand these terms. What is an equivalency? There'll be a scenario saying, oh, this project actually in Philippines is pursuing the certification. However, they are challenged about the location loss. Which of the following features can they use? Equivalency, innovation, optimization, precondition. The answer would be equivalency. Okay. Next is documentation review. So now so think about the life cycle again. Registered, we have the team, we understand the documentation requirement, pre-design, we got it pre-certified, we designed, we implemented it. Now next is test. We are going to submit everything to documentation review. So this is done by a well reviewer. They will begin this review once a project submits all the design and protocol information, everything in one stage. You cannot just submit one. Everything is submitted once, pay the fees, and then they start reviewing it. If all the documents are found to be satisfactory, then the project may proceed to performance verification. How long does this documentation review take? Usually between 20 to 25 business days. Not required for the exam, but good to know. Next is performance verification. Okay. So within performance verification, so what is performance verification? Performance verification spans across several environment parameters in accordance to well that you see here. It could be air quality, for example, testing organic, inorganic gases, particulate matter, checking for water quality, checking for lighting attribute like light intensity, thermal consideration, checking for those acoustical elements, testing for decibel levels, reverberation. These are all actual tests. So previously, imagine, you're an engineer, you designed it, the contractor built it. Now imagine somebody walking in, like almost like a commissioning agent walking in and saying, let me test to see what is the air quality in the building, what is the water quality. So that is a distinctive feature of well building standard. Okay, performance verification. Now, let's look at this table closely. I would like you to memorize certain elements within it. So on the top element, let's understand what this table is about. So one is the path. Okay, this talks about what kind of project you are in. Are you well version 2 or well version 2 pilot? Or are you well core and shell? All different types of, okay. Focus on first two elements. Don't worry about the other two for now. First one is for all the projects. Second one is core and shell. Okay. So second column is documentation approved, yes or no. Third one, construction complete, yes or no. And then occupancy, 1 month from certificate occupancy is needed, yes or no. What percentage of occupancy? 50% occupancy, yes or no. Okay. What this means is for a well project, if it is not a credential project, if it is a well project certified under pilot version 2 or V1 existing building, documentation has to be completely approved for performance verification. Construction has to be completely complete for performance verification. 1 month from certificate of occupancy has to be complete. Remember, 1 month from certificate of occupancy has to be complete. And then at least 50% occupancy is required. So that's a yes, 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 yes. 4 yeses there. Now for core and shell, look at this. Documentation complete, yes. So that's important for everyone, right? You have to make sure everything is done. That column number 1 is yes for everything. Construction complete, yes, partially. There's this note below which you can see in the guide, but more or less complete. Look at that as a yes for now for your exam. Okay. Occupancy, 1 month from occupancy, it is not a requirement. So those two are the major requirement. So for your exam, they may give you a tricky question. It may be either core and shell or an actual project or a regular project and asks you, they have issues with occupancy. Do you think they can get performance verification? They have all documentation complete, they have construction is complete, and the 50 occupancy is under to 50%. Can the project go for performance verification? Answer is yes for core and shell. Okay, so this is something I would like you to revise again when you come back to revising the content. Who are performance testing agents? So these are this could be either GBCI, who are doing the performance verification themselves, or it could be testing agents approved by GBCI. So a list of approved well performance testing organization can be found on the GBCI's website. But for exam prep, understand it's either GBCI or a performance testing agent approved by GBCI. One more thing I would like you to understand for the exam is well performance testing organization contracted by a project team must demonstrate that there is no conflict of interest with the project. Okay, that's something also you need to understand for the exam. Well performance testing agents conduct performance tests on site, send samples to labs for testing, analyze data, collect photographic evidence, submit result for performance review by the well reviewer. As a third party, the certification body of the well, GBCI will then review everything, and that is when the final document is prepared. So on-site testing, performance review equals performance verification. So let's say if I am the testing agent, I come to site, I measure everything, but I cannot say yes or no on site, right? I have to prepare my own documentation. Then I send it to GBCI for review, and then they will do the final report, right? So what happens if a review comes negative? Let's say, I am testing for some quality in air. I find that there are certain thresholds, it's not meeting threshold. As a well AP, what would be your recommendation? And this is something it will come up for exam for sure. Okay. When a testing agent is on site, something fails. What happens? Are they going to not get certified? Or are you going to recommend them, it's okay, don't worry about it, we have enough? Or are you going to say, let's actually do it again. Let's come back. Let's do some curative actions. Let's look at what can be done to improve the condition and then do the test again. The answer is you should do it again after you meet the conditions. Of course, there are certain things which cannot be met, but there could be, like especially thresholds, you can change it. There'll be a curative action where you can implement the curative action, wait for a few more days, and then you can test it again. Okay, that could be your recommendation as a well AP. So now that we have all the information, this is when they would give you the performance verification. And this is something we need to understand. What does it include? A well report. A well report is something which tells you feature by feature assessment of whether requirements were met or not. So what if your project didn't meet certain things? This is an option for you to take curative action. This is available for project teams to wish to undertake corrective measures to address unmet performance testing criteria and schedule a follow-up performance testing. Understand this for the exam. Crucial, very important. And also you have appeals available to projects that wish to contest findings of the well report. Let's say you're like, no, this is absurd. I'm pretty sure this report is right. You try to convince them several times, then they don't wish to listen to you, then you can submit appeal. Both options, whether it is curative or appeal, I mean, for appeal, definitely there's a fees involved. Okay, appeals are available to projects that wish to contest. A fixed fees is there for curative actions and appeals. Understand there is a fees, but you don't have to memorize the fees, but understand there is a fees for curative action and appeals. All right. Now we have completed every single step in the certification process. Let's revise it. Number one, it seems the slides I'm using is much more faster than me. It keeps running before me. Number one is registering the project. Number two is forming the team, understanding the documentation requirement. Then you are optional, should we pre-certify or not? Okay. Then that is exact time you can do a design charrette to devise a plan for all the project throughout the life cycle, look at synergies and everything. Okay. After that is done, you implement the design and construction, you document everything, you do refinement here and there to make sure the design meets the requirements. Once everything is complete, then you submit for documentation. The whole thing is submitted. Along with that, you're submitting apps, like certain things you're not very sure. That is when you're using alternate approaches, equivalencies. You're also submitting innovations. So look at here. You can see my mouse, the cursor. You can see this is where you submit documentation. That is the same time you're submitting, alternative approaches and everything, right? You want them to review it and let you know whether it flies or not. The review happens. After the review comes the performance verification, which we talked about previously. Certain conditions has to be met in terms of construction is complete, occupancy, the table, remember the table. Once the performance verification comes, you get the report. If you're not satisfied, if you're the unmet hours, unmet requirements, the project have an option to engage in a curative action, which is corrective actions, corrective measures, and then invite the testing agent again for reassessing the situation or testing it again, right? Or you can appeal. There's a quick question here. Will an agent retest some performance? Will an agent retest some performance even after it has met standards in previous tests? No. So when you are inviting the testing agent to come again, they are going to only do this particular one. That is the fees. You have to pay the fees again. That's right. However, they may do random tests. So imagine if it is, let's say it's been many months and they feel like, okay, last time it was passed. So I don't think there's a universal one fit for answer, but however, you're only inviting for one feature. Whichever you didn't meet is what you're inviting them for, but it's up to them, right? It's like a driving test. So you go for a driving exam, the exam reviewer tells you, okay, well, you didn't look in the mirror, we didn't see it. Okay, next time you go to the driving test, you're looking at the mirror like, you're like exaggerating your movement, but you miss something else, right? So there could be always a chance that they may look at something else, but your goal is to, when you're inviting them, to assess that particular feature which you failed. All right, so now you have the well report. You can go after curative actions, or you can appeal, and that's it. Once you're happy with your report, you accept it. That is when, depending on your score level, you'll be designed either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. So this is the table that it is actually in the embedded document. You don't have to memorize, but you can see the point levels are slightly also different. Now let's look at this table really close. Okay, this could be confusing because this has been confusing all the time whenever we try to explain this. Okay, so what does this table tell you? It tells you you need 40 points for bronze, 50 points for silver. So that is very clear, right? Then you also see this minimum points per concept. What is that? It says, so does it mean that a project could actually get away not doing anything, or what does it actually mean? So if we go back again, it just means that there are all these concepts, right? Air, water, So if you are pursuing well bronze, then you could pursue all the preconditions, which is mandatory, and then skip one concept. That's 0 points in a concept and still get certified, which means you can skip some concept and then still get certified. Silver, minimum points per concept, at least you should get one. Basically, it means that you have to address all the concepts. Gold, 2, platinum, 3. That is all it means. For core, it's 0 for every single thing. It means that you can skip, any of the concepts. And also, there's an additional note over here. Projects may pursue no more than 12 points per concept and no more than 100 points in total across the 10 concepts. Okay, so let's understand it for now. 12 points is the maximum per concept, and 100 is the maximum across all 10 concepts. And 100 is all you need. That's the maximum, right, for the certification. Okay. Now that you are certified, what else should you know? Okay, this talks about ongoing monitoring. Okay, projects that have satisfied all the requirements are certified. Then you can have a certification plaque or other signage indicating the level of certification and the year. The plaque will also say, well, gold 2022, 23, 24, whatever. There are annual submissions in order to maintain status, like being in good standing. And throughout the exam prep, you will see that certain documents require you to submit annually certain information. So you have to keep on doing it every year. There's also an option to do recertification. So prior to recertification, projects team must be in good standing. So if ever you would like to recertify, you want to make sure every single year you are, keeping up with the minimum requirements, like ongoing requirements like logs of cleaning schedules, filter replacements. Think about it actually as a car. Okay, so if you have a car, you got it certified. Now you have to keep your car in good shape conditions before you go for next. If you go for next, certification, they say, well, you missed last 3, you have to pay for more fees or whatnot. Okay. Now, to remain in good standing, projects must submit documents within 15 months of certification and then every 12 months thereafter. Very important for you to understand for your exam. So failure to provide these reports within the required time frame may render a project ineligible for recertification. Okay, or it could result in additional fees or requirements for recertification. Understand that. Okay. That brings us to the last topic. What is recertification? So recertification is valid for 3 years. Another exam question. So if a project would like to keep, certify again, then they can file an application for the recertification. Once you apply, that opens your window, which means you can still use it, your certification, while the application is in process. Okay, so it's the recertification must be applied no later than 3 years after the initial date on which the project was awarded its initial certification. Filing an application for certification extends the validity of the project's original certification period for 12 months. That's also an exam question, during which time the project team must then satisfactorily meet all the requirements. There will be also performance review. Okay, if a project does not file an application for the certification, this is when they start losing it. It expires of the original certification period, or your chances of getting recertified minimizes. Upon expiration of the project's well certification, the project must immediately cease or discontinue all use and display of certification of plaque or any marketing language. This would be also you'll see this in some way or format in the exam. The project will be also removed from the IWBS list of certified projects. So then you may ask, why are we doing this? Like, why recertification? I think I mentioned this in the early, just like humans, buildings also age. As we age, we are not able to move all our body parts as we used to when we were young. Same thing with buildings, and hence you have to recertify it every 3 years. Okay. There's a few more recertification requirements. the projects are only eligible for recertification if all the ongoing monitoring, incremental progress, and everything has been done. GBCI will evaluate the project at reevaluation, decertification, at which point the status may be revoked if they haven't been fulfilling the requirements. If there's any changes since initial decertification, like any additions, a new building was added, any new rooms, those things also should be captured in the certification. All right, so that concludes our well certification module. Congratulations, you survived the first module. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, if you complete all the modules, all the quizzes, all the questions, then you become eligible to become a GBRI Wellness Ambassador. It's a socially shareable badge which you can share on your LinkedIn platform. If you're interested, again, there are other courses on our platform that are linked to well certification, like biophilic design, and other, of course, lead and well exam prep. And we also have a climate change ambassador program, which is a flagship program from GBRI, which we started last year. Okay. Please don't forget to review us. You can also join all our social media platform, LinkedIn, Instagram. Okay, so now let's play a quick Kahoot game. So I think we have 15 more minutes. So this questions will be based on everything that we covered today. Okay, I could use some help from Felicia. Let's see, Kahoot. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them. How many of you have played Kahoot before? You can see my screen, right? Let me see. So we are looking for a well Kahoot. Okay, GBRI well Kahoot, 7 questions, 2 place. Okay, so let me just open this real quick to see. Okay, Frida has played Kahoot before. Okay. All right, let's play this one. Okay, so this is a Kahoot with 7 questions. Have your smartphone ready. If you haven't played, take your phone and you will see a number on the screen. So once you see the number, first go to kahoot.it. Okay, and then you'll see the number. Type in the number and you can join. Thank you, Felicia. Nice, nice. I see and you can see my screen, right? You can see all the members. Okay, GB, Felicia. All right, let's get started. One word that comes to your mind when you see or hear the word help. You can type in your answer. This is not a quiz question, just to get you familiar with the platform. If you are, yeah, thank you, Carla. If you are not participating in the Kahoot, you can also enter your answer in the chat. All right, so we have well-being, nourishment, wellness, food, and we have wellness and happiness. I like those answers. I like happiness to include in that. All right. How big is the global health and wellness market? If you remember, I mentioned it. Nice. So we got the correct answer is 4.2. Unfortunately, we got a few wrong answers. Now you can see who is on the leaderboard. Felicia is leading it. So you also have to be very fast with your fingers. Okay, so make sure that you're very quick with the fingers. All right. Well, version 2 comprises of how many concepts? 7, 8, 9, 10. The answer is right there on the screen. Nice. The correct answer is 10. Guess we got one. Robin is doing wonderful now. She has pushed RD and Felicia. All right, next question. Which of the following are new features under the well community concept? So we didn't actually do this, okay? So you can safely, I'll give you the answer for this. The answer is all of the above. Nice. I guess someone still made a wrong answer, but we didn't go through the well community feature, but that's the answer. Very good. Robin is maintaining her position there. All right, let's look at the next one. True or false? Well complements LEED, BREEAM, and other green building rating system. True or false? Nice. True. All of you got it right. Okay, so we also see the answers in the chat. Carla, Sudarshan. Okay, good, good. All right, Robin is on a streak here with 4 correct answers in a row. Okay. Innovation is not a well concept, but it touches on all the other concepts and rewards projects for innovating ideas. Is it true or not? So we didn't actually talk about this particular specific thing, but it is true. Innovation is not a particular well category in itself or well concept, but it touches on all the other concepts. Wow, Robin, great. And Felicia is bringing come back here. Last question. Which of the following is true about well version 2? Well version 2 is global, it is resilient, it's evidence-based, all of the above. Nice. That is the right answer. Let's see who is on the pedestal. Wow, look at that. Number 1, Robin. Number 2, Ragini. Number 3, Jibi. See, it actually played so fast. I was thinking it'll have this. There's a museum. So sometimes there is a music. Oh. Oh, wow. I think it's doing the thing again. So you can play it again if you want to. So you can see all the ghosts here. Jibi has a ghost, everyone has a ghost here, and you can play again if you want to, okay, to see if you become better. All right, I'm going to exit it because it looks like the Kahoot took over my screen. All right. All right. Any questions? I hope you enjoyed the little Kahoot there. If you don't have any questions, we can wrap it up soon. If you haven't signed up thus far, I hope that this session motivates you to join our study group. Felicia, can you share the link here? And I think there is also, thank you so much. And there's also a discount coupon that we shared in the email, right? Perfect, perfect. So there is also a discount coupon. So early bird will get you a $50 rebate on tuition. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Felicia. So please use this if you have any questions, or if you're studying on your own. I wish you the best, and I would love also to hear your feedback on this session. If you like to leave a review, let me send you a quick form. If you would like to review, I would love that. Please stop this. Include a quick review. I'm looking for the form, the link. Oh gosh, when I'm really looking for something. Got it. Okay. Okay, so this is actually a quick form, and I would love to hear your feedback on this session today. Okay, and I hope to see you all for the coming sessions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me or Felicia. Otherwise, I will see you all, me or Carolina or Ala would be there on the sessions. Felicia also would be there in the sessions. Okay. All right, thank you, Robin. Of course, yeah, let me just get to that slide. What does that 1 month of certificate mean? Let me get to that particular slide. It's a very good question. This is definitely a yes on the exam. Okay, let me know if you can see the screen. Okay. Oh, this is kind of blurred. Not this one, right? This one. So what does 1 month from certificate of occupancy mean, and why are we doing it? Okay. So question number 1 is, let's say if I got my project completed and I got certificate of occupancy from the city. So it is today. Okay. And I have to wait for at least 1 month before I can call for the testing. And why it is required? Because basically there could be some changes happening when occupants come in, right? Because you already designed certain things when people started occupying the place, there are some moving elements. So they want to make sure there's at least 1 month of data, 1 month of humans in the building before they're doing the testing. Otherwise, it's like, you're getting a brand new car. No one has been in the car. And after 30 days, you go and do a testing, like, wow, everything is perfect. But in 30 days, the car has not been driven at all. So they would say, okay, if you drive the car for first 100 miles and then come for testing. Something similar to that. Makes sense? So at least the building is operational for 30 days after the certificate of occupancy is provided before the testing can happen. All right, perfect. Any other question? So this is an important table. Like I mentioned, pay attention to the first two, the credential and the well version or the well projects. And it's an easy one to remember now. It's yes for everything and no for occupancy and 50% occupancy and certificate of occupancy, like the 1 month. Okay. Because it may be harder if you think about it, why they have exempted for credential, because for credential projects, previously mentioned, only 25% is occupied by the owner, right? So what if your certificate of occupancy is, oh, did I just close the window? I'm sorry. Are you still here?
Yes, we're still here. I see the Kahoot screen though.
Oh, my God. For some reason, I thought I closed all the windows. Okay. So for credential projects, once it is certified, there may be always delay on getting tenants and things like that, right? And that's the reason why they have slightly accented it for credential projects. The occupancy, 50% occupancy, and the time period after the building is occupied. All right. Once again, thank you so much. I think we are 4 minutes ahead of our schedule. So I wish you all the best, and I will see you in the coming weeks. And if not, we hope our paths cross in the near future. Bye.